What happens when someone says something so devastating on live television that Dr. Phil has to stop the cameras? I need to tell the truth. All of it. Right now. Those 7 words from Jennifer made Dr. Phil raise his hand, freeze the entire production, and turn to his crew with just 2 words. Stop everything. What she said next would change not just her life, but everyone watching in that studio. 30 seconds earlier, the show had been rolling normally. Dr. Phil sat in his familiar chair, the studio audience settled in their seats, cameras capturing every angle. Jennifer, a 34-year-old mother of 2, had come on the show to discuss her troubled marriage. The segment was supposed to be straightforward, marital communication issues, maybe some trust problems. But Dr. Phil had sensed something else from the moment she walked on stage. Jennifer, Dr. Phil said, leaning forward. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I can tell when someone is carrying a weight that's about to break them. What is it you're not telling us? Jennifer's hands trembled in her lap. She looked at the audience, then at the cameras, then back at Dr. Phil. Her mouth opened, then closed. Tears began streaming down her face. That's when Dr. Phil did something he rarely does. He stood up and walked directly to her. Hold on, Dr. Phil said, his voice dropping to that tone everyone knows, the one that means he's about to get real. Before you say anything, I need you to understand something. Whatever you're about to tell me, we're going to handle it the right way. You understand? Jennifer nodded, unable to speak. Good. Dr. Phil continued. Now I'm going to ask you one more time, and I want you to tell me the truth. Not the version you've been telling yourself. Not the version you've been telling everyone else. The truth. The studio had gone completely silent. You could hear the air conditioning hum. The audience members leaned forward in their seats, phones forgotten, completely absorbed in the moment unfolding before them. Nobody knew that Jennifer was about to shatter everything they thought they knew about her story. Dr. Phil returned to his chair, but he never broke eye contact with her. What happened, Jennifer? I need to tell the truth. All of it. Right now. Her voice cracked on the last word. Dr. Phil raised his hand immediately. Stop the tape. The entire production froze. Cameramen looked at each other in confusion. The studio audience sat in stunned silence. In 25 years of television, Dr. Phil had stopped production maybe a handful of times. This was serious. Dr. Phil stood again and turned to his senior producer in the control room. Clear the audience. Everyone except essential crew. Now. What was about to happen would become one of the most powerful moments in the show's history. As the audience filed out, confused but compliant, Dr. Phil walked back to Jennifer. He didn't sit in his chair. Instead, he pulled up one of the guest chairs and sat directly beside her, at eye level. No desk between them. No cameras rolling. Just 2 people. Talk to me, Dr. Phil said softly. Just me. Nobody else. Jennifer's entire body shook as she spoke. My husband, he doesn't know. Nobody knows. I've been hiding it for 6 years. Hiding what? Dr. Phil's voice was gentle but firm. My son. Tyler, he's not my husband's biological child. The confession hung in the air like a physical presence. The few crew members who remained exchanged shocked glances. Even the sound technicians, who had heard everything over the years, looked stunned. But Dr. Phil didn't flinch. He didn't judge. He just listened. Tell me everything, Dr. Phil said. Start from the beginning. Jennifer's story came pouring out. 6 years ago, during a brief separation from her husband, she had been with someone else. When she and her husband reconciled, she discovered she was pregnant. She had convinced herself, and him, that the baby was his. They had gotten back together, stronger than before. Or so everyone thought. Tyler is 6 now, Jennifer sobbed. He looks exactly like the other man. Every day I see it. Every day, my husband looks at him and sees his son. But I know the truth. And it's killing me. Dr. Phil listened without interrupting. When she finished, He was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that would define his entire approach to this crisis. "Jennifer, look at me." Dr. Phil waited until her eyes met his. "What you just told me is one of the most difficult confessions I've ever heard on this show. And I want you to know something. You did the right thing by telling the truth. Finally. But what do I do?" Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. "How do I tell him? How do I tell Tyler when he's older? I've destroyed everything." Dr. Phil shook his head slowly. "No. You've been destroying everything by keeping this secret. What you're doing right now, this is how you start rebuilding." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. "Here's what's going to happen. I have a family therapist, one of the best in the country, who specializes in exactly this kind of situation. You're going to meet with her. Today. Not next week. Today. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead." Jennifer took the card with shaking hands. "But my husband—" "Your husband deserves to know the truth," Dr. Phil said firmly. "And he deserves to hear it in a way that gives you both the best chance of working through this. That's why you're going to meet with the therapist first. She's going to help you figure out how to have this conversation. What if he leaves me?" Jennifer's voice broke completely. Dr. Phil leaned back slightly, his expression softening. "Jennifer, I can't promise you what his reaction will be. I can't tell you that your marriage will survive this. What I can tell you is that living with this secret is already destroying you. And it will eventually destroy your family anyway." He paused, letting that sink in. "You have a choice." Dr. Phil continued. "You can continue living this lie, watching it eat away at you and your family piece by piece. Or you can face it head on, get the help you need, and give your husband the respect and honesty he deserves. It won't be easy. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. But it's the only path forward that has any chance of redemption." But Dr. Phil wasn't done. What he said next brought everyone in the room to tears. "And Jennifer." Dr. Phil's voice took on a different quality, softer, more personal. "That little boy, Tyler, he's 6 years old. He didn't ask for any of this. Whatever happens between you and your husband, that child needs stability. He needs love. He needs parents who are committed to his well-being above everything else." Jennifer nodded, tears streaming down her face. "So here's what else is going to happen." Dr. Phil continued. "We're going to bring in a child psychologist as well. Because at some point, Tyler is going to need to know his truth. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. And when that day comes, you need to be prepared to handle it in a way that protects him." Dr. Phil stood and walked to his desk. He opened a drawer and pulled out a sealed white envelope. He walked back and handed it to Jennifer. "What is this?" she asked. "Open it when you're alone tonight. After you've met with the therapist. It's something I wrote for you. Something I want you to read when the weight of all this feels like too much." Jennifer held the envelope like it was made of glass. The envelope would become a symbol of something far bigger than just one woman's confession. Dr. Phil signaled to his crew. "Bring the cameras back. We're going back on air. But Jennifer, you don't have to say anything publicly if you don't want to. What you told me in confidence stays in confidence unless you choose otherwise." Jennifer shook her head. "No. I want to say it. People need to know. People need to know that secrets like this can destroy you. If my story helps even one person tell their truth sooner, then maybe some good can come from this." Dr. Phil studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right. But we do this my way. You tell your story. Then we're going to give you the resources and support you need. This isn't entertainment. This is someone's life." The cameras rolled again. The audience was brought back in, sensing something profound had happened during the break. Dr. Phil addressed them directly. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to witness is an act of courage. Our guest has decided to share something that she has never told anyone. I want everyone in this room, and everyone watching at home, to understand something. It takes tremendous strength to face your own truth. And that's what we're about to see. What happened next became one of the most shared moments in television history. Jennifer spoke. She told her story to the cameras, to the audience, to America. She held nothing back. Every word was raw, painful, honest. By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. Dr. Phil let the silence sit for a moment. Then he spoke directly to the camera, breaking the fourth wall in a way he rarely did. I want to talk to those of you watching at home. How many of you are carrying a secret right now? How many of you are living with something that's eating you alive from the inside? Let me tell you something, secrets don't protect you. They imprison you. He turned back to Jennifer. What you did today is terrifying. But it's also the first step toward freedom. Real freedom. Not the fake freedom of keeping up appearances. The real freedom that comes from living in truth. The audience erupted in applause. Not the polite applause of daytime television, but the kind of applause that comes from witnessing something genuine and transformative. But the story didn't end there. What Dr. Phil did next would impact thousands of lives. After the show, Dr. Phil personally called the therapist and the child psychologist. He arranged for Jennifer to have 6 months of sessions, completely covered. He also arranged for her husband to have access to counseling. Whether he chose to stay or leave, he would need support. 3 months later, Jennifer sent Dr. Phil a letter. She had told her husband everything. The revelation had nearly destroyed their marriage. They had separated for several weeks. But they were in intensive therapy together, and they were working through it. Tyler didn't know yet. That conversation would come when he was older. But both parents were committed to handling it with professional guidance. I opened the envelope you gave me that night, Jennifer wrote. I've read it every day since. It reminds me that healing is possible, even when you think you've broken everything beyond repair. Dr. Phil kept that letter in his desk drawer. He would occasionally take it out and read it when he needed to remember why he did what he did. The envelope, it turned out, contained just 3 sentences. You are not defined by your worst decision. You are defined by what you do next. Choose courage. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. The impact of that episode went far beyond Jennifer's story. The show received thousands of emails from viewers who had been carrying similar secrets. Many of them sought help after watching Jennifer's confession. Support groups formed online. Therapists reported an increase in clients finally addressing long-buried truths. Dr. Phil addressed this phenomenon in a follow-up episode. What Jennifer did was not just brave for her. It was brave for everyone watching who saw themselves in her story. She gave permission for others to face their own truths. He held up the sealed envelope, a replica of the one he had given Jennifer, for the cameras. Sometimes the hardest step is the first one. But you don't have to do it alone. If you're carrying a secret that's destroying you, reach out. Get help. Tell the truth. Because living in truth, even when it's painful, is always better than living in a lie. The envelope became a symbol. Dr. Phil began offering it to guests in similar situations. Over the years, he would hand out dozens of envelopes, each one containing those same 3 sentences. Some guests opened them immediately. Others kept them sealed for months. But every single person who received one said it changed their life. It's not magic, Dr. Phil explained in an interview about the envelope tradition. It's a reminder. A physical reminder that no matter how broken things seem, there's always a path forward. Always. Jennifer's story became a case study in therapeutic circles. Conferences on family therapy would reference the Dr. Phil envelope moment as an example of crisis intervention done right, immediate action, professional resources, unwavering support, and brutal honesty all combined. 5 years after that frozen studio moment, Jennifer appeared on Dr. Phil again. She and her husband were still together. They had been through hell and back, but they had made it. Tyler still didn't know the full truth. His parents were waiting until he was old enough to process it properly, with professional guidance. But the toxic secret that had been poisoning their family was gone. I still have the envelope. Jennifer told Dr. Phil during that follow-up appearance. It's in my nightstand. On the hard days, I take it out and read it. It reminds me that I chose courage. And that choice saved my life. Dr. Phil nodded, visibly moved. That's what we're here for. Not to judge. Not to shame. But to help people find their way back to truth. Because truth, no matter how painful, is always the foundation of healing. The legacy of that moment continues to this day. Mental health professionals now teach the envelope principle in crisis intervention courses, the idea of giving people a tangible reminder that healing is possible. The phrase, choose courage, has been adopted by addiction recovery programs, grief support groups, and family therapy practices around the world. Jennifer's confession and Dr. Phil's compassionate response proved that television could be more than entertainment. It could be a catalyst for real change. Not through spectacle or judgment, but through honest conversation and genuine support. And it all started with 7 words. I need to tell the truth. All of it. Right now. Those 7 words froze a studio, stopped production, and ultimately freed a woman from a prison of her own making. They reminded everyone watching that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to face the truth despite the fear. Dr. Phil's decision to stop the cameras, clear the room, and create a safe space for that confession wasn't just good television. It was good humanity. It showed that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply listen, validate, and provide the resources for healing. The white envelope sits in Dr. Phil's desk to this day, ready for the next person who needs that reminder. Ready for the next moment when someone chooses courage. Because in the end, that's what it's all about, choosing courage, facing truth, and believing that healing is possible even when everything seems broken. That's the legacy of the day Dr. Phil froze the studio. And that legacy continues to change lives every single day.